Chapter 11, Cataclysm, Scene 37, Jasira, 2030. It's called Anglo-style, she said. Anglo what? Jasira rolled over, supported her chin with her palm, and faced the woman who'd been stroking her back for the better part of 30 minutes. She tried to connect with those tiny, pale gray eyes, but Aaron's attention was drawn to Jasira's breasts like a moth to a flame. Using her index finger, Aaron reached forward and traced a circle around the erect nipple. The fringe, she purred. Like I told you last night, that's what we do. Every muscle in Jasira's body stiffened as Aaron replaced her finger with her palm and gave her breast a firm squeeze. The tension made Jasira's voice tremble. What does social media have to do with Anglo-Saxons? Her tone was a warning, but Aaron either didn't notice or didn't care. She removed a hand, leaned forward, and placed her tongue upon the pinnacle of erect flesh. A month ago, Aaron mumbled between sucks, we found this group. Being devoured last night had been nice, especially when Aaron had gone to work between Jasira's legs. Her tongue vibrated with the speed of a hummingbird's wings. The ecstasy that followed was so sweet Jasira had been eager to give back. This, however, was morning, and all Jasira felt was frustration from the flat emptiness of one-sided pleasure. She leaned away from Aaron, just enough to reclaim her breast. You're not telling me anything, Jasira said, staring down at the auburn crew cut below her chin. When Aaron's head shot up, she had the wide eyes of a desperate puppy, confused as to why she couldn't have her treat. They have cosplay, she said. They have wacky politics. They have everything we need. She's not holding out, Jasira realized. She simply cannot comprehend that most people don't understand this stuff. As a double PhD, Aaron was so steeped in research that psychometrics and social network analysis were basic tools for predicting human behavior. Interviewing members of this elite community was always tough, but Jasira found it necessary for her reporting. No one else was privy to the data collected on the public for decades. What's the goal, Aaron? What is X? Jasira snatched the last 3 syllables from the air before the rest of the word could leave her lips. Excalibur was Aaron's employer. Last night, the woman clammed up every time Jasira uttered the name aloud. You said you've done this before, right? Aaron nodded. QAnon, 2017. AstroTurf, Jasira thought. That's what this is. While attending IC High School in Beirut, Jasira, a straight-A student, had filled her free time with an obsession for American politics. She was intrigued by the idea that millions of people had based their vote on the conspiratorial belief that a cabal of pedophiles controlled the world, from the basement of a pizza joint, no less. That obsession had paid off in the form of a special report that was aired years later on news outlets around the globe. QAnon's role in American politics was confirmed by disappointment so intense that it began to chip away at the autocrat's power when it was revealed that, far from being a hero, he was one of the key nodes in the network of the real pedophile who suffered a mysterious death while in prison. If Aaron really had something to do with the rise of QAnon, perhaps Jasira had stumbled upon the explanation of what was happening now in D.C. For the last couple of weeks, the Capitol had been on fire with talk about the new rule. The bill was steadily making its rounds through Congress. The more Jasira looked, the more the insidious workings of Aaron's employer seemed to appear. No one knew what Excalibur was. A lobbying firm? A think tank? A super PAC? Like Aaron, every member of its small staff was highly skilled, and without anyone noticing, they'd managed to put several governors into office as well as legislators in all 50 states. The firm was only dragged out of the shadows by its astonishing success during the midterms. 12 congressmen and 1 senator came to Washington, armed with a plan to transform American governance. No one on the Hill had heard of them until now, but Excalibur's track record already rivaled the likes of AIPAC. Aaron tried to cop a feel, but Jasira blocked her hand. How large is this Anglo-style group? Dejected, Aaron fell back against the mattress. "Couple hundred," she said, letting out a breath. Jasira narrowed her eyes. "That's it?" Aaron shrugged. "That's all we need." "Explain." Aaron groped around for a pillow and then slid it under her head. "We've got so much psychometric data. Scaling up is easy. Finding groups like this, that's what's hard." "Why?" Aaron spread her hands in the air. "Because it came together naturally. These people live all over the country. And even though they come from different walks of life, they bonded over a shared love of those stupid wigs," Aaron gestured at her head. "You know, like the ones English judges wear." "Perukes?" "Yeah, perukes. And fitted bodices. And dresses with layers and layers of skirts. And—" Aaron shot forward, planted a kiss on the breast she'd been denied, then, grinning like a naughty little boy, returned to her pillow. "And," she continued, "they truly believe that a small group of white families should rule the country." Jasira's head fell back. "Anglo-style." "You got it." Jasira's sources included staffers and some congressmen, all of whom were convinced that Washington's 13 new arrivals, who were, incidentally, calling themselves the Anglo-Caucus, wanted to impose a kind of 21st century feudalism on the country. The new rule created sovereign domains, established the Council of Nobles, and turned a group of wealthy men into regional lords, officially known as patriarchs. The whole thing had sounded far-fetched to Jasira, until now. "You believe you can make this nonsense popular?" Aaron shook her head. "It sounds like nonsense to you because you think for yourself." "But," Jasira furrowed her brow, "this is America." Aaron rolled over and spoke to the ceiling. "The beautiful Lebanese woman is assuming all Americans think for themselves. Well, let's see." She licked her index finger and held it in the air. "What do the data show?" Aaron turned back to Jasira. "People tell us they're undecided before elections, and yet, somehow, we're usually able to predict the outcome within 3 percentage points a year before the vote. People say they like new things, but shopping history is the best indicator of future purchases. And don't even get me started on whether Americans are really committed to saving the planet. We're taught to value thinking for ourselves, but being accepted by others and having a strong identification with a group, those things are more important to a lot of people." Aaron blew her fingernails and wiped them on her t-shirt. "Within a year, that group of hundreds will scale up to 20 million. As if savoring one last look, Aaron turned her attention to Jasira's breasts. She lingered for a moment on her mauve nipples, then ran her eyes down Jasira's short, slender torso. Aaron slid her tongue through her lips when she reached the tastefully manicured bush between Jasira's shapely legs. "The towels are in the bathroom," she said. Aaron, you're fucking gorgeous, Jasira. If you ever want to do this again, call me, anytime." Jasira hadn't expected to get laid. She had assumed Excalibur's senior analyst was a man. In the 11 years she'd been in America, she'd never met a woman named Aaron. Still, she didn't really go for the boyish look. Nothing was more beautiful than all the meaningful ways in which women can be feminine. Jasira's male sources shared information partly because they found her attractive. Some seemed incapable of admitting that to themselves, but she knew from having tolerated endless amounts of flirting that most did. Either way, they were the wrong gender. Among her many strengths, Jasira prided herself on the ability to maintain control in every situation. So when she got to the bar and saw that Aaron was a masculine woman, she didn't think the interview would end any differently from all the others. Her breakup with Midori, though, was only 2 weeks old, and in spite of the way Aaron looked, her awkward, nerdy manner had been endearing, especially in the way it laid bare her immediate adulation for Jasira. After 2 hours of being treated like a goddess, Jasira practically floated into Aaron's bed. If she hadn't stayed the night, would she have gotten the information she needed? Who, Jasira mused, was using whom? The morning sun glinted in the window, and Jasira realized the autonomous cab was driving past the Hoover building. Shutting her eyes, she tried to head off the memory of Midori's jet black hair and the way it always seemed to shine against the lemon undertones of her soft coconut skin. There was a surge of desire, and Jasira wanted to stop. She wanted to get out of the cab. Midori was always the first agent in the office. As an ex-Marine, the woman rose early, fucked Jasira until she was breathless, then jogged several miles before the sun's golden rays winked over the horizon. No, Jasira thought, clutching her purse. This time, it's over. As if in protest, her cell phone vibrated against the pebbled leather of her bag. Startled, Jasira pushed the bag away, but then realized she'd forgotten to unmute her mobile. She raised her arm, glanced at her smartwatch, then smiled when she saw the caller was Jeff. She tapped accept, and his face appeared in a tiny screen strapped over her wrist. "How'd it go?" he said with a smile. With a quick swipe of her finger, Jasira transferred the image from her watch to the full-sized monitor separating the cab's front and back seats. The car's video technology was so advanced that now it felt as if they were walking side by side. The slightly blurred replica of the Capitol building filled the background beyond Jeff's shoulder. Jasira folded her arms. "It's deeper than we thought," she said. "I know what Excalibur plans to do, but I still don't know what it is." "Apparently," Jeff said, "it's not dangerous. You made it out alive." He knew she was meeting a source for the first time. If Jasira hadn't answered this call, Jeff would have raised heaven and earth until he was sure that she was okay. "Erin," Jasira said, "is female." "Oh," Jeff leaned his head back. "That explains the weird spelling." Jasira had scheduled the interview yesterday, partly as a way of figuring out whether the hearing that morning in the Senate Budget Committee was worth attending. She asked, "Are you still going to be there at 8? Jeff nodded at a guard and handed his bag to the security robot looming over his head. "That prime heuristic thing?" he said. "Not sure." Jasira said, "I think the new rule has legs." Jeff reclaimed his bag, then shot her a surprised look. "Feudalism in America? Get out." Jasira shook her head. "The Anglo-Caucus is already here." "Yeah," Jeff nodded. "They won a bunch of local elections, managed to get 12 in the House and 1 in the Senate. But a governing agenda built around neo-feudalism? Sounds like a stretch. Where's the constituency?" Jasira smiled. "Why, that's a very good question, young man." Jeff high-fived one of his colleagues as he walked by. "I's be a reporter," he said. Jasira laughed. "Seriously, though," Jeff continued, "you really think the country will accept patriarchs and all the rest of that stuff?" Beyond the monitor and through the windshield of the autonomous cab, Capitol Plaza's white dome came into view. Apparently, she'd only been a few streets behind Jeff, which meant they would be face to face in a matter of minutes. "That's what the professors are here for," Jasira said. "They're trying to warn the country." While researching their backgrounds, Jasira noticed one academic in particular. Dr. Sheila Jackson was a labor economist from the University of Illinois at Chicago. The scholar had written an interesting analysis of the bill. She also had beautiful hazel eyes, exquisite sandy brown skin, and the kind of lips that just made you wanna. "And in America," Jeff was saying, "we always listen to our experts." White columns and presidential portraits flashed over his shoulder. He was steps away from where they usually set up. "I have to admit, though, stranger things have happened. We're currently being ruled by an ex-general whose birth name is Genghis Khan." Jasira's cab slowed as it turned onto Constitution Avenue. "Save me a spot near the clock," she said. Jeff smiled. "You got it." Then he ended the call. The Ohio clock corridor was already teeming with reporters, but Jasira had no trouble spotting Jeff. In his blue blazer and yellow tie, Jeff was easily the tallest person in the scrum. The tan skin of his bald head seemed to shine as he squatted down to place his broadcasting box on the floor. Jasira reached the clock with the wooden eagle just as Jeff stood back up, raising the box's flat surface to its full height. He fiddled with the controls for a minute, and the blue text of his copy sprang into the air. One of the box's key features was its ability to project 3D text like a teleprompter. Thanks for saving my spot, Jasira said. Jeff turned. Hey, he said, no problem. Their first call of the day was in 20 minutes, so, mindful of the time, Jasira let Jeff review his copy. Standing about 12 feet from one another, they worked in companionable silence. Jasira thought about the confidence Aaron had shown less than an hour ago. What were the chances that an organization whose name was derived from Anglo-Saxon lore could succeed in transforming governance in the United States of America? As Jeff said, she thought, stranger things have happened.